unable to resist the spotlight. For years, he thrived in Hollywood, never hesitating to criticize those who didn't align with his views. Now, as the situation shifts, he takes on the role of the victim. Once quick to mock and belittle, he now portrays himself as the misunderstood artist, the fallen star facing unfair scrutiny. The irony is hard to ignore. At this point, the conversation is no longer just about a tragic accident. It has become a narrative shaped by an actor skilled at keeping the focus on himself. The Rust shooting was a devastating incident, yet rather than acknowledging his part in the tragedy, Baldwin appears more focused on deflecting blame. His response has been one of defense, shifting responsibility rather than addressing the deeper issues at hand. A figure known for calling others out now seems reluctant to accept accountability, framing himself as a target instead. Notice his desperate attempts to rewrite history, to cast himself as a noble warrior fighting against a cruel and unjust world, are beyond cringeworthy. The true tragedy isn't just what happened on the Rust set, it's the sheer level of narcissism required to turn a devastating event into a personal sob story. If only he had shown as much concern for the real victim as he does for his own career. And let's not forget his latest media appearances, where he eagerly drops lines about how Hollywood insiders are still giving him positive communications. Oh, what a relief. Maybe, just maybe, they'll let him back in. The level of delusion is staggering. He clings to the idea that he's still relevant, still important, still part of the elite. But here's the reality. Hollywood has already moved on. The Rust case continues to loom over him, an inconvenient reminder that the world doesn't revolve around his ego. Yet, instead of facing that truth, he remains consumed with crafting his own pity narrative, while carefully sidestepping the parts where he should have exercised even the slightest bit of responsibility. "I didn't know there was a live round," he insists, as if ignorance somehow equals innocence. And of course, he never misses an opportunity to remind everyone just how difficult this has been for him. But let's be honest, his biggest enemy isn't cancer.
Actor Alec Baldwin is speaking about the deadly shooting on a movie set that happened back in October. He says he did not pull the trigger of the gun that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
Alec Baldwin finds himself at the center of controversy once again. Cancel culture, the media, or even the Hollywood elites who have finally grown tired of him. His greatest enemy has always been himself. The arrogance, the self-importance, the inability to accept that actions have consequences. Those are the real reasons his career is in freefall. And if he still can't see that, then he deserves every bit of the reckoning that's coming his way. His version of events has more holes than a cheap Netflix thriller. He complains about how unfair it all is, yet conveniently ignores the fact that he wasn't exactly forced into this mess. Instead, he paints himself as a misunderstood hero, hoping that if he plays the role convincingly enough, the world will forget the truth. But his selective outrage is far louder than his sense of personal responsibility. For years, he lectured the world on politics, morality, and justice, wagging his finger at those he deemed unworthy. Now, with the spotlight turned on him, he's suddenly the victim of an unfair system. Funny how that works. His moral compass seems to function only when it serves his interests. He speaks about the importance of accountability, but somehow fails to hold himself to the same standard. The irony is almost poetic. Hollywood's most vocal anti-gun advocate now finds himself at the center of a scandal involving, of all things, a firearm. And his attempt at a comeback? Absolutely cringeworthy. He's not just trying to salvage his reputation, he's rewriting his entire narrative. Suddenly, he's the outcast, the unfairly exiled artist, as if Hollywood hasn't been a revolving door for disgraced celebrities who manage to find redemption. Let's not pretend that Hollywood has a conscience. It never has. It's not about ethics, it's about timing. And right now, Baldwin is learning what it feels like to be on the wrong side of it. It doesn't. Hollywood is an industry built on hypocrisy, where moral outrage is performative and punishment is based on popularity, not principle. Yet Baldwin clings to the idea that he's been unfairly cast out, as if he's some tragic figure rather than a man facing the consequences of his own actions. Then comes the family card. Never hesitated to attack others. The legal battle isn't helping either. His attempts to frame this as a redemption arc are falling flat because the facts don't align with the fairy tale he's trying to sell. He wants to be seen as a noble figure fighting against a corrupt system, but the public isn't buying the script he's pushing. Hollywood is giving him a lukewarm reception at best, and even those who once supported him are finding it harder to ignore the contradictions in his character. This isn't just about Baldwin, it's about Hollywood's entire culture of hypocrisy. The industry loves to prop up its darlings, but the moment they become inconvenient, they're discarded. He wants everyone to know he has 7 kids. Why? Because apparently, reminding people of his children is supposed to erase all past misdeeds. It's a desperate appeal for sympathy, but no one's buying it. Social media is having a field day, mocking, dissecting, and exposing every flaw in his argument. The memes alone could fill an entire documentary. His attempt to shift the narrative from industry outcast to misunderstood warrior isn't just failing, it's backfiring spectacularly. And here's where it gets even more absurd. For years, he built his brand on tearing people down, ridiculing his political opponents, and mocking others for their personal failings. Now, faced with his own reckoning, he expects the world to extend him the grace he never gave to others. Now that he's on the receiving end, he's suddenly a champion for justice. The double standard is staggering. His arrogance and self-righteousness have left him with few allies, and now he's scrambling to find a way back into Hollywood's good graces. But even his most loyal fans are beginning to question why they should defend him when he started. The same people who decry cancel culture are often the first to participate in it when it serves their interests. And Baldwin, he has become the poster child for this entire mess, a man who made a career tearing others down, now desperately trying to claw his way back up. Instead of confronting the situation with responsibility, he expresses frustration over being criticized, as though the world should see him as the one wronged, and yet, he seems genuinely shocked that Hollywood has finally distanced itself from him. It wasn't enough that a life was lost under his watch. No, in his mind, the real tragedy is that he is no longer treated as Hollywood royalty. He is taken to interviews, crafting dramatic narratives of his personal suffering, as if the world should stop and sympathize with him. But let's be honest, his so-called exile isn't some deep, shadowy purgatory. The only thing truly haunting him is the weight of his own arrogance. This is the same man who spent years speaking out against gun rights, treating the Second Amendment as a problem only he had the wisdom to solve. Yet, when the time came to demonstrate the responsibility he so often demanded of others, he failed. Now, instead of addressing that failure, he wants the world to believe he is just another casualty of cancel culture, as if he is the victim of some grand effort to silence him. No, this isn't cancel culture. It's consequences. The hypocrisy would almost be amusing if it weren't so unsettling. Here is a man who built a career on lecturing the public, holding himself up as Hollywood's moral authority. He could insult journalists, berate his own family, and play the role of the smug intellectual, all while benefiting from the industry's selective standards. But now that the dynamics have shifted, he suddenly sees himself as the oppressed one. The irony is overwhelming. What's even more unbelievable is that he actually thinks Hollywood will eventually welcome him back with open arms. He's counting on the industry's love for redemption arcs, trusting that his PR team can craft a narrative that will pave the way for a dramatic comeback. And honestly, he might not be wrong. If there's one thing Hollywood enjoys more than a scandal, it's pretending to forgive one of its own when the timing is convenient. But will audiences buy it? That's the real question. Because with every public appearance, every carefully crafted performance of regret, the spectacle only becomes more absurd.